In this video, we are going to be continuing our introduction to rational exponents. Now, I ended the last video of the introduction to rational exponents showing how when I take a base, okay, in this case I have base A, and I raise it to a rational exponent, which just means I have a fraction as an exponent, this bottom number represents the root of the expression. So a to the 1/4 is the same thing as taking the fourth root of a. Okay, they are equivalent things, and I showed why that is in the last video. That means similarly that a to the 1/7 would be the same thing as taking the seventh root of a. Okay, so it's important to know that this bottom number of your fraction is the root. So far, however, all the examples we've looked at have had the top number be a 1. What I want to talk about in this video is what happens when that number's not a 1. So notice here I have 2/3 instead of 1/3. Now, the trick here is to actually undo one of our exponent properties that we've worked with in the past. What I can do is I can take a to the 2/3 and I can rewrite this as a to the 1/3 taken to the second power. I'm pulling the 2 out. Now, the reason why I can do this is if you remember our exponent rules, whenever you raise a power to a power, you multiply these. And if I take 2 times 1/3, well, 2 times 1/3 is 2/3. Okay? So I know this expression is equivalent to the one I started with. Now, like I said up above, I know how I can rewrite a to the 1/3. A to the 1/3 is really the same thing as saying the third root of a, okay? So this inside part I know is equivalent to the third root of a, and then I'm taking that to the second power, okay? This is the radical version of this rational exponent, okay? I can pull the 2 off. The 1/3 is the third root of a, and then the 2 will stay on as the power. Let's look at this one more time in another example. So here I have b to the 3/4. Well, I can rewrite that as b to the 1/4 taken to the third power. Now, I can do this once again because when I raise a power to a power, I multiply exponents, and 1/4 times 3 is 3/4. Okay? Now, I know from the last video that b to the 1/4, this is really the fourth root of b. I can rewrite that as the fourth root of b taken to the third power. Now, what I want to show you is I don't always have to pull the top number out. I can also pull the bottom number of the fraction out. So if I look at this same example again, let's say I have b to the 3/4 again, but this time instead of pulling the 3 out, I'm going to pull the 1/4 out. So it's going to look like this. It's going to be b to the third taken to the 1/4 power. This time, it's still okay. This is still equivalent because when I raise a power to a power, I multiply, and 3 times 1/4 is still 3/4. But this time my root's on the outside. So when I take the fourth root of b to the third, that means I'm taking the fourth, or when I take the 1/4 power of b to the third, that's really the fourth root. So I'm going to take the fourth root of b to the third. This also is an equivalent answer. These two things are the same. Now, what I want you to notice here is the bottom number, okay, the 4, is the root in both expressions, okay? It's my index. It's the type of root I'm taking. So this bottom number represents the root. The top number is the power in both expressions. Notice this is raised to the third power, and this one, b, is raised to the third power. So the top number represents your power. The bottom number represents your root. The way I like to remember this is I think about if you're powerful, you're on top, right? You're the ruler, you're the powerful one. And if you're a root, like trees, tree roots go into the ground, so the roots are on the bottom. Notice if we go back up to the first example I did, the 2 is my power, and you'll notice that in the expression, the 2 is the power, the bottom number is the root, and if you look at the expression, the bottom number is the root. Now, we want to be able to rewrite expressions quickly using this idea. So if I look at two examples here, I have c to the 4/5. Well, I know the top number is my power and the bottom number is my root, so I can quickly rewrite this one of two ways. I can either rewrite this as the fifth root of c taken to the fourth power, where the power is on the outside and the root's on the inside, or this would be c to the fourth power with the fifth root of that. Okay, it doesn't matter if the power is on the outside or on the inside. What matters is that the root is 5 in both examples and the power is 4 in both examples. Either answer is okay. All right, let's try one last one. Here I have a to the 7/3. Okay, I know the top number is my power, the bottom number is my root. I can write this as a to the 7th, right? I'm taking it to the 7th power, and I'm taking the third root of that. This would be one way I could write my answer. The other way I could write my answer is I could write this as a, where I'm taking the third root of it, and I'm taking that to the 7th power. Okay, doesn't matter if the power's on the inside or if it's on the outside. The power just has to be 7 and the root just has to be 3. This also would be an answer.